So I've been playing the first Descendant for about 4 hours, and I've got some thoughts to share. Spoiler alert, they are not positive. Surprisingly, not enough people are talking about this game, so let's dive into my experience and break down what's going on. By the way, I tested the game on PS5 on performance mode, which in theory should promise 60 FPS, but we'll get to that part soon. In case you're not familiar, the first Descendant is a free-to-play, next-generation, third-person shooter and loot game developed using Unreal Engine 5. Players take on the role of a Descendant, fighting against alien invaders to ensure humanity's survival. Each Descendant has their own unique abilities and combat styles, providing a diverse gameplay experience. You can play solo or team up with up to 4 players for boss raids and intense teamwork. Allegedly, the game boasts graphics optimized for 4K, HDR10, ray tracing, and over 60 FPS, promising a visually stunning experience. Players can enhance their skills using modules, reactors, and external components, allowing for tailored playstyles. That's the gist of it. Now let's talk about my experience. At first, my impressions were quite positive. The game's visuals were impressive, and the combat mechanics felt engaging. The variety in Descendants' abilities added a refreshing layer to the gameplay, and everything seemed promising during the early missions. However, you don't really realize the game has massive issues until you arrive in Kingston. Things started to change drastically once I reached Kingston, the third town you visit in the first Descendant, following Albion and Aeolia. Kingston is supposed to be a major milestone in the game, offering a larger and more diverse set of activities, including open-world exploration, enemy encounters, and co-op void intercept battles. Oh gosh, the frame rate dropped so hard when I arrived in Kingston that I was genuinely shocked. Despite the high-quality graphics touted, I encountered numerous performance issues in this area. Frame rate drops and stuttering became common. At first, I thought maybe I need to update the game. I did hear there was day 1 patch, but when I checked for updates, I got a notification that the game is up to date. Here is what Daniel, the channel editor, had to say. As someone who played 400 hours of Helldivers 2, I can say that I'm pretty used to high-intensity battles, and I think I have a pretty high tolerance for some bugs and frame drop here and there, especially if a game just released and it's online. The level of lack of polish was quite shocking, but if we take away all the lag and all the texture pop-ins, the one thing that really surprised me is the input lag. Jesus, I don't remember when was the last time I saw so much input lag in a game. We are not talking milliseconds here, we are talking seconds. I hope they patch this up soon because the game looks amazing and I see the potential in it, but nobody wants to play a game in 15 FPS. End quote. But I wanted to know if this is just a PS5 problem, and I wanted to see what other people are saying. Here is a summary of the initial reviews for the first Descendant. The game has a lot of potential, with fluid combat, interesting character abilities, and challenging boss fights. However, it also has some significant issues. The story and dialogue are described as laughably bad and heinous, with nonsensical sci-fi jargon and poor voice acting. The user interface is very cluttered and confusing, requiring a PhD in RPG hogwash to decipher. The game has a heavy emphasis on grinding and repetitive activities, though the meaningful upgrades and customization help balance this. There are concerns about the free-to-play monetization model, with reviewers being cautiously optimistic that it will not be too predatory, based on Nexon's past practices. The game feels like it is trying to emulate successful looter shooters like Destiny and Warframe, but it hasn't quite reached their level of polish and depth yet. The first Descendant draws heavy inspiration from games like Destiny, Warframe, and The Division. It combines the looter-shooter gameplay with more RPG-like character abilities and customization. However, it is criticized for its story and characters, which are seen as lacking compared to more polished narratives in games like Destiny. The user interface and overall polish are also seen as less refined compared to established titles in the genre. Microtransactions in the first Descendant focus mainly on cosmetic items like skins and outfits, with no pay-to-win elements that provide gameplay advantages for spending money. Convenience items like experience boosters and resource packs are available, but are just time savers and don't affect the ability to progress through skill and effort. Many items that can be purchased are also earnable through normal gameplay. Look, the game has a lot of potential with its unique concepts and high-quality graphics, but it's in desperate need of some updates. In my opinion, it should have never been released in this state. The open world areas are so bad performance-wise, not only in the FPS, but also input delay is laughably bad. And don't get me started on texture pop-ins and textures not loading in. Now, when you go into the more closed areas like dungeons, the issues don't seem to be as noticeable. Okay, so I also went on Metacritic to see if there are fresh reviews. As it stands, it's TBD, but user scores are pretty mixed at the moment. Some players are enjoying the core gameplay and visual design, while others are struggling with the same performance and balance issues I encountered. It's clear that the game has divided opinions within the community. If you're considering playing it at launch, keep an eye out for updates and patches from the developers that address these issues. Hopefully, with community feedback and continued development, the first Descendant can reach its full potential. I'm also curious to hear from you all. Have any of you tried the first Descendant yet? What were your initial impressions? Did you experience any of the issues I mentioned? Or did you have a different experience? Were there aspects you loved or hated? How did it compare to other looter shooters you played?
Damn it. I lost Corral and the objective. Gravewalker approaching. Awaiting orders.